for life. AMAKEN as an idea started a few months ago, a few years ago, but we launched our organization or our network actually in World Urban Forum last February. AMAKEN Placemaking, as I said, it's a non-profit multidisciplinary network acting as a platform to share knowledge and opportunities. AMAKEN Placemaking members can be architects, urban planners, socialist placemakers, landscapers, and everything related to creating people's life. We are working as a team or sisters with international similar organizations like World Placemaking X and Placemaking Europe, with many other small organizations here in the Arab world. Next.
Oh, sorry.
No. Actually, our aims or our activities is, can you go one slide up, Minouche?
Here?
No, up, not down.
Oh, sorry. Here?
This one.
Yeah.
This one. It's very important that we show what we are doing actually. We are shaping, influencing policies. We are raising awareness, and we are implementing solutions or helping developing new solutions and helping implement solutions. We are connecting people and creating a platform for connection, knowledge sharing, and everything that related to the built environment and the social life of the people. Our permanent activity is AMAKEN coffee break or AMAKEN coffee hour. This AMAKEN coffee hour, we have it twice per month, every other Saturday.
Can I ask one of the other co-hosts to let people in, please? Adib, could you perhaps?
Yes, we had till now 9 coffee breaks or 9 coffee hours. We had many topics, but all of them related to the public spaces, public place, creating placemaking from a way or another. Please have a visit to our website, amakenplacemaking.org. You can join AMAKEN by filling in AMAKEN membership form, and you can offer that we host your coffee hour by filling in the AMAKEN coffee talk form. So, related to our actually values of feeling that we need to support people, we need to support their life, and we need to support how they reclaim their public spaces. Along all of this, we all shocked with what happened in Beirut exactly a week ago. This blast actually wasn't in Beirut only. I think it hurted every human, not only Arab people. So we thought in AMAKEN that we need to show our compassion in a more practical way. So we thought about this workshop, Beirut post-crisis placemaking, how we can help and what we can do. I think many of you, or all of us actually, knows what happened, knows this blast that happened in Beirut. We can go through this actually quickly. It's really hurting. The blast actually happened in a very small area of the marine, in a warehouse storing explosive materials. But actually, it was the response or the effects of this explosion went beyond the imagination of any person. It was like having atomic bomb over Beirut. We have all witnessed this blast, and we have all witnessed the effect which extended for 24 kilometers inside Beirut itself. The damage started from demolishing a big area from the marine itself and extended to making different types of distortion distortion along the city itself. Go ahead. It was really capturing our attention how this affected people's life. According to CNN, the Beirut governor says that at least 300,000 people displaced by explosion. That means those people are not capable to return to their homes, and maybe they will not be able in a way or another to return to their jobs sooner. This was very horrible picture, and actually this photo exactly showing another way of disaster happened to Beirut. Maybe it is not in the focus now, but it will come into attention very soon that many of the heritage of Beirut was damaged because it's very fragile, and the explosion caused a very high shake for this kind of building. Okay, so we as AMAKEN thought what we can do about it. Of course, we don't have the knowledge that what happened exactly there, and we want to help. And so many other people around the universe want to help Beirut. What we are offering today that we are AMAKEN after this big shock of Beirut, plus our hearts were really bleeding for Beirut. Then we thought we need to gather our expertise, our experience, our practical knowledge to reach out and support our network members. We have within our network in AMAKEN many from many Lebanese actually living in Beirut and other else in Lebanon. But we can't support them in a medical way. We can't offer them money, but we as Arab placemakers know how to recreate good public places, streets and square places for the community together, support each other, set up shops, co-working places that can incubate people's activities till they return or create another economic model. Beirut now has a great need actually for more and true public spaces that fulfill people's needs. And now it is the time to help beginning and reclaiming public spaces. As AMAKEN placemakers, we can help with our experience, our toolbox, and by providing this platform actually, what we are doing now, to channel for meetings, workshops, and the call for action. We start actually by creating this workshop as a first one. Through this workshop, we need to understand. We need to know how to help and what to do. And actually, in parallel, we started translating guides and tools. Thanks to the many volunteers and the members of AMAKEN who take this opportunity to show their compassion in a practical way. And we are working now in translating 5 guidelines and tools for people in Beirut on how they can really practice reclaiming their public spaces and create whatever spaces that compact and incubate all their activities. Okay. We start analyzing what is happening. So we think, by the way, we did this with people from Beirut. We didn't do this from Egypt. We didn't do this from Saudi Arabia. We did this on a workshop, several workshops with our friends from Beirut, asking them, because whenever you want to help someone, you have to ask him. He knows better about his own wounds and about his own the kind of help he needs. So Beirut is facing many crises right now. It's a social one, built environment one, economical, and governmental. The social, of course, we can see what happened with the people losing their homes or people losing their jobs. For the built environment, the damage that happened around Beirut. Economically, of course, till now, the numbers are reaching milliards of dollars that will affect Beirut and the people living there for now and for the near future and far future as well, if they didn't receive the proper intervention. Governmental, because as we have been told through our friends or through the Lebanese and through the international media, people need to put their trust in someone that can help them actually get over this pain, this sorrow, and get over the whole shaking situation in their country. So how can we help? From this small workshop discussions with people from Beirut, we found out that we can help actually in 4 categories. In community, by help targeting people themselves and civil society. In the built environment, by the domestic ecology and public spaces. For helping for economy by creating shops, local markets, and co-working spaces that incubate people's activity, and help towards good governance by empowering the local governance. What could we do? This was actually, and it is our offer. That's what we brought through our analysis, through brainstorming, that we can help people trigger the 3 areas: the community needs, the economical needs, and the built environment. So we thought about public places designs that we can do it ourselves because we are eventually placemakers, like call for action to reclaim people's right to public space, organizing rehabilitation competitions, strategized for better spaces, human-centered design, providing a platform for consultancy and training services, workshops, tools, handbooks, access to expertise by local and regional experts, like our dearest guest speakers today. And this is what we are doing today. What we are doing today is to answer this question: what do you need from us? What Lebanon needs from us? What Beirut, Lebanon from us? We are trying to figure out all together. No one is going to say what is happening and what people need in behalf of them. We are going to listen to experts. We are going to listen to people from Lebanon, both our guest speakers and our dearest attendees as well. Our workshop will start by the very thoughtful and very actually rich presentation by our dearest Professor Dr. Yahya Srag. He will talk about Beirut Ground Zero Reflections on Post-Crisis Recovery, following by Dr. Nabil Menaim, the embedding challenges of reconstruction and recovery. Then our dearest Sheiji Nashaf. Sheiji will talk about post-crisis community engagement. Then our dearest AMAKEN member, Adib Dada from Lebanon, the other forest, his own proposal for reclaiming public spaces. Then we'll have about 50 minutes of open discussion. Then we'll have the closing remarks from which that we can create our call to action for everyone that wants to help in hands-on experience. So let me introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is Professor Yahya Srag. Professor Yahya Srag is a professor of urban and regional planning in Ain Shams University, Cairo. He received his PhD and master's degree from TU Limbo in Belgium, postgraduate certificate from Newcastle University in UK. He's a member of Regional Studies Association in United Kingdom, member in the Institute of Global Security and Defense Affairs. He co-founder with a group of consultant office of Consultancy Alliance for Post-Conflict Reconstruction. He's a member of ACUPOR, which is a firm that has many founders from different nationalities, from different countries, working in different background and specialization, including urban planning, architecture, remote sensing, and civil engineering. This group actually has adopted the methodology for post-conflict construction and they aim to apply it in actual projects in the post-conflict cities in the Middle East. We'll start with Dr. Yahya Sraj. Dr. Yahya, would you please share your screen? And
Okay.
please, our guest, please fill in the registration form in the chat area. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, I started sharing my screen, Dr. Lobna.
Yes, doctor, it's very clear. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for this introduction, and thanks for the invitation to take part of this very important event that we're sharing. I feel it's like a commitment towards Lebanon and our friends and colleagues in, over there because of the current events. I know that I think I have 15 minutes to go through the presentation, so I'll try to be as quick as possible. So that's my presentation about, you already introduced it, Beirut's Ground Zero, Reflections on Post-Catastrophe Recovery. I just changed, well, the crisis, because the crisis is still going on, I replaced it with catastrophe, because what happened was a catastrophe. So let me go through that. So the aim of the presentation today is actually to share with everybody a methodology that we developed last year, or yes, through APOCOR, which you already presented, the Alliance for Post-Conflict Reconstruction, which is a group of consultants from different countries, Egypt, Lebanon, Iraq, Libya, Germany, Denmark, Palestine as well. And as a matter of fact, Dr. Nabil as well, he is also my colleague, my dear colleague, also attending today. So initially this methodology was targeting to be applied, or supposed to be applied in post-conflict cities in the Middle East as a result of the revolutions that took place over the last decade, conflicts, civil war and stuff like that. Ironically, we presented this methodology last year in September in Lebanon itself, in Beirut, in a conference that was called Destruction and Reconstruction, the Interdisciplinary Perspectives on Cultural Heritage in Conflict Conference. And this was an event that was organized by the Arab German Youth Association together with the American University in Beirut. That was almost 1 year ago, and it's really very strange to be adapting this methodology once more, but for post-catastrophe reconstruction. So what is it all about? So this is our methodology. So for post-conflict or catastrophe reconstruction, in the case we're talking about for Beirut, it's generic in its nature. It's intended to be contextualized according to each case. Cases are different. What we face today in Beirut is different from what we face in Syria, from Libya, from Yemen, and so on and so forth. So accordingly, this methodology should be contextualized each time we try to apply it. And we try to develop this methodology and propose some steps within it based on our analysis and study of historical conflicts that took place in the last century or so, during the Second World War, during the Yugoslav War, and the Lebanese Civil War, for example. So we try to rely on that. We try to propose some steps. I'm going to go through them now, taking into consideration the modern technology, including remote sensing, for example, geographical information system, as well as augmented and virtual realities. So I'll just read aloud the methodology, and then I'll go through it one by one. So it's composed of the following items. We have first the physical damage assessment, and we'll be there in a minute, defining immediate actions, selecting a proper post-conflict reconstruction strategy for the city or the area, whatever, using augmented reality in heritage sites, using debris and rubble, creating jobs through the reconstruction process, funding the reconstruction process itself, and then the social reconciliation. I tried to put that in a diagram so we can actually look at it from a different perspective. I think we have two important points that should be there all the time, and even from the very beginning. Of course, the funding of the reconstruction process, which is a very integral and important part of the whole situation. If there is no funding, then things might not go as planned or as perceived. And also there is an important need to achieve and make sure that we realize the so-called social and political reconciliation. People should come together, should cooperate together, should put aside the different conflicts that they might have, and be that some social or political perspectives. What we have inside the first step, so if we provide these two main elements, then we have 6 other steps, if you like, divided on 2 groups. The first group, it has like the physical damage assessment, defining immediate actions, and selecting a proper reconstruction strategy. This will then later on lead, or would go hand in hand actually, with the second group of steps, that is looking at the heritage sites using augmented reality somehow, and we go to that in a minute, how to use and to deal with debris and rubble from the catastrophe that happened, and of course to capitalize on the reconstruction process to create jobs for the local economy to rework again. I'll go through them fast. I'm just going to next slide. So the first point, and maybe this was already mentioned briefly, so the physical damage assessment. And by the physical damage assessment, we need actually to assess and to understand the exact level of the damage that we might have in the city. So the example that you see in front of you, this is a city from Syria. I think it's Homs or Aleppo, one of them. And that was an earlier analysis for the city, trying to understand the levels of damage in the city, from being severely damaged to less damaged areas. So you will see, for example, the dark red colors. It means that these areas and districts of the city are severely damaged, while lighter colors mean that the city is less damaged. Why do we have to do this at the very beginning? So to understand the level, the limit, and the limit of the damage and destruction that occurred. The case here is on a city, but this also would work on an area or a district like Beirut or Beirut port. Of course, to have an exact analysis, field work should be conducted house by house maybe, so that we can understand what kind of intervention will be needed. But there are other techniques, and already this was applied in the last couple of days, to understand the level of damage in terms of zones. And we'll go there in a second. So yeah, so these images were shown before. So this is like Port Beirut, or Beirut port before the 4th of August, and the situation over there stable. And these, of course, are the images that were circulating the last couple of days in terms of the damage. So this is the direct damage areas that Dr. Lobna hinted for a couple of minutes ago. And then this was released 2 days ago, exactly, I think on August, or 3 days, August 7th. This is like a remote sensing and GIS analysis of the area of Port Beirut, and it was released by the Earth Observatory of Singapore and NASA, as well as other entities. In it, you can see the level of the damage that took place in this area in Beirut. I'll zoom in a little bit. So here is a more magnified map. So again, the dark red or dark brown colors that you see, these are the most damaged areas and the most severely affected by the blast that took place a few days ago, while the yellow colors, these are still damaged, but they are less damaged. And this can already help later on in figuring out, or maybe perhaps drawing an outline for a strategy of what to do first. Which places should we intervene first? What kind of action should be made, and the type of intervention. So this is in terms of the physical damage assessment. And by the way, you can, if you do a search on that, you can find it already online from the sources I mentioned earlier. So the second thing, after having this idea or this, let's say, analysis of what happened to the city, is to define the immediate actions. In case of cities, on the level of cities coming out of conflict, usually there is a lot of people who lost their homes, there is a lot of IDPs, there is a lot of returnees that should need immediate action. And they would also be in urgent need of shelter and basic services. Accordingly, we start to look at the damage assessment map that we have to see what areas should we concentrate our efforts or intervention at the beginning, so that we can make a direct and fast help in terms of shelter and service provision for the affected people. In the case of Beirut, there is no internal conflict. There is the problem here again is, and maybe our Lebanese friends can already tell us the extent of that. But I'm looking at shelter, the urgent need of shelter and basic services for those who were affected from the blast a few days ago, and what kind of intervention, fast intervention that should be made. Maybe some areas to be adapted first within the city to host them until the reconstruction attempts and maintenance attempts should be done later on. So I think this is about the immediate actions to be made. Afterwards, selecting the third item in our methodology is like selecting a proper reconstruction strategy for the city. And by this, there are different cases, again, according to the context, according to the type of conflict or catastrophe in our case, that really direct us to pick one of them. So there are several cases across history, for example, to build the city from scratch. And one of the outstanding examples for that was, for example, the city of Rotterdam in Holland during the Second World War. On the image you see on your right-hand side, so there is the image of the city and a photo of the city before 1940, before it was bombed in the war, and it was almost totally wiped out except for some key buildings that kind of remained. And then you find a new image of the city that was built from scratch, because there was no use of building again or rebuilding the city as it used to stand once in history before 1940. So building from scratch is one thing that could be done. Another thing is to make a replica of the city to its pre-conflict image. And there is a case, but it's not the whole city, it's the historical part of the city. For example, again, this example comes from Germany, from Dresden. During the Second World War, there was this raid that almost wiped out the entire center of the city. The decision was to rebuild the city as it stood before the war. But this was focused on the historical core mainly. So this is again another approach. Okay, rebuild it as it once stood. It depends. Maybe this is applicable more for the heritage and the heritage sites and historical buildings as well. So there are several of these kind of strategies. One of them could be also a blended intervention. It depends. Maybe depends on the damage itself. Maybe some places need to be rebuilt from scratch, while others could be restored, once again, could be repaired if they are repairable. So there is this kind of blended intervention as well. So selecting a proper reconstruction strategy comes as our third. Then this one, it's not an urgent, actually, it's not an urgent step that we do, but we have to take this into consideration. I'm not sure about the situation close to the port of Beirut. But during my visit to Lebanon last year, I noticed a lot of buildings of heritage value in general. And usually it depends on the funding. Again, if there is proper funding, then these heritage sites could be rebuilt once more. If not, then this could be postponed until the urgent needs are fulfilled. Then dealing with heritage sites can take place. However, something could be made in parallel is to reconstruct the building, but within the augmented reality, because we don't know how long will it take or will it take us to receive funding to rebuild the heritage sites or to repair the heritage sites in order to keep them within the memory of the people, then better preserve it somehow, even through this kind of augmented reality technology, as we can see from this image, where this guy is actually looking at an application through his tablet. A building once stood there, but it's no longer, so he can only see it via this augmented reality. Then we go to this question that we have, using debris and rubble. The images that we see, like this image, like the images Dr. Lobna already projected minutes ago, it shows that there's a lot of debris and rubble that came out of, as a result of this explosion. What to do with them is really an important question. There are so many cases from history and so many answers to this. One of them, of course, with a totally different technology, manual technology at that time, comes from Germany, but I think it's not applicable to our case here. For example, the image that we see now, this is like, they are called the rubble women in Germany, and they used to try to use the debris and rubble to make new building blocks to reconstruct Germany just after the Second World War. Of course, it's not relevant to what we're talking about, but it gives us a starting point of understanding what can be done. Changing the natural landscape also was a practice in several German cities, where the debris, they had to clear the debris, they had to make roads for people to move in so that they can reach the sites to be reconstructed again. What to do with the debris, again, was a question. Some of the answers could be making artificial landscapes. In several German cities, like the landscape changed on the suburbs of these cities by making hills of debris and then converting that into green areas or green hills afterwards. Because it's always a question what to do with the rubble and the debris. In Lebanon itself, I know, or I've been told, that after the civil war and during the reconstruction of Beirut, there is one way of dealing with the rubble is dump it in the sea and make land reclamation. So there is this Normandy dump, or landfill, as it was called in Beirut. And it was to, the result was gaining an extra land for the city. And I think this is also a practice in several other cases, because again, debris and rubble is a question to be tackled. Going back to the discussion, this could be actually creating jobs through the reconstruction process. This is mainly, I would say, a side product, but it's an important side product of the reconstruction process. It creates jobs within the reconstruction industry. Several buildings were affected. Almost an entire district was affected in Beirut. And taking into consideration the current economic crisis that Beirut is facing, unemployment rates are rising. Perhaps during this reconstruction process, job provision could be made through involving more and more people in these efforts. I'm almost there now. So we have these two important parts. I put them at the end. Like, remember in the diagram I showed that we had these two gears, like the one about the funding and the other one is about the social and political reconciliation. And I think funding is always a big question, be that in post-catastrophe reconstruction, post-conflict reconstruction, post-war reconstruction, whatever. There's always this question of funding, how to raise funding, how to provide funding for the reconstruction process is always a big question that we should take into consideration. I don't have answers in the case of Beirut, of course, but I'm just thinking that several issues could be reconsidered: private sector, international aid, international donations, international organizations. We already followed that there was a conference, an international conference for the aid of Beirut, I think yesterday or the day before, I'm not really sure of the day. So funding is an integral part for the reconstruction process, at least to, how do you call it, to implement it as soon as possible. Of course, there could be some individual efforts, but a more coherent funding scheme should be there for this process. Finally, I think social and political reconciliation is an important aspect. This is the second red gear that was there in our methodology chart. Well, today it's not that, I would not say social really in Lebanon, although we've seen different cases before in terms of civil conflict where social reconciliation was a must. The Bosnian wars, for example, even the Lebanese civil war, some sort of social reconciliation had to be done in order to bring people together to work together for the reconstruction of their country and to make sure that this would not happen again. So we don't have a conflict here, we have a catastrophe, but we have a rising political dispute within the Lebanese society. I'm not an expert in politics, but I can follow the news and what's happening today and the previous days. And I see that if social and political reconciliation are not reached soon in Lebanon, then this would be really a problem or a hurdle for the reconstruction process for years to come. And that should be taken care of. I think I've reached the end of my presentation. I hope I didn't take much of the time, and thank you, of course, for listening. And I think there would be questions, but in the question side afterwards. So back to the moderators.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yahya, for the very thoughtful and very actually knowledgeable presentation. And this closing screen shot is really touching. Thank you very much. I think if anyone needs to make a question or a question, we'll have all the questions during the discussion 50 minutes after all our dearest speakers finish their talks. Our next talk is by Dr. Nabil Menam. Dr. Nabil, please start sharing while I am presenting you. Dr. Nabil Menam will talk about the embedded challenges of reconstruction and recovery. Dr. Nabil studies his PhD in spatial planning and urban development at Politecnico di Milano. Founder, urban and regional planner at FLET, senior architect and urban designer. He's a key expert on climate change, resilience, adaptation, and local sustainable development. Senior trainer for trainers on sustainable development, governance, and urban resilience. He's also consultant on post-conflict recovery, senior spatial and economic development specialist. Consultant on cross-border economic integration, and he is also a scholar in strategic spatial planning and a member on the ACOPAR team. And we are really honored and glad to have him with us today. Dr. Nabil, would you please share your screen?
Okay, thank you for inviting me to give a first-hand testimony about what happened on August 4th and share my ideas about how to rebuild and where we need assistance. First, I will give situation, the scale of the damage, the different forms of help and assistance we have now on the long, medium, and short term. I'll start with the long term because it's we need to.
Dr. Nabil, can you please use the
look ahead into opportunities. Can you hear me well?
Dr. Nabil,
so
perhaps it's better if you turn off your camera because the line is not so well. So it might help. So we can see your screen, but I'll turn off your video. So continue talking.
Okay.
It's fine.
Good. Okay. So I'll go quickly about the Beirut situation. Basically, before this happened on August 4th, we were facing like economic turmoil. We're going through a socio-political crisis, which was aggravated by the presence of refugees that came to Lebanon because of their conflict. We are, as everybody, facing the COVID-19. We got this explosion at the port that had a massive scene in Lebanon. We've been through a civil war. We had an earthquake in 1956 that destroyed Pakistan, unprecedented. But if you go to Beirut, Beirut is the political and it accounts for 75% of the national GDP, and along the years since Lebanon was created as a state and got its independence, the development approach of the was very spatially blind. Everything was over-concentrated on Beirut, leaving different regions. This time, the port became important and the city developed into a large metropolitan area, million people living now. So out of which 500,000 are living in Beirut, Beirut city. So the port major gateway has a strategic location very close to Damascus, only 80 kilometers by land, and it takes 2 hours to reach. So it serves the hinterland till Iraq. If we look at the this is a picture I got from the internet. Actually, it's in darkness, the extension of the blast. You have to imagine, as you have seen all on the videos, what we suffered. It was shaking for about 15 minutes after the first explosion, and all glass roofs exploded, and we had to face all this, and we couldn't hear ourselves. Even here where I live in the blue area, but far away, like 3 kilometers away. And even with this distance, we couldn't hear each other inside the area. What this destruction resulted in, actually, we have around 200 dead people and missing, 6,000 hospitals destroyed and abandoned, and the remaining hospitals are overwhelmed because we have about 10,000 SMEs in the tourism sector that have been directly hit.
Dr. Nabil?
Yes?
Dr. Nabil, may I quickly ask you, the line is really bad. Is it possible for you to go to a mobile line?
Try to do it through the mobile. Let me try. Through Zoom,
The voice is cutting, disconnecting in many parts.
Yes, and we want to hear you well, so.
Okay, I'm sorry, just give me a second. I'll try to go through my mobile.
Yes.
Dr. Nabil is presenting from Beirut. Maybe this
Okay.
makes sense why he has such a network problem. And God bless you, Dr. Nabil, to have the effort to join us today. Thank you very much.
Just give 1 second. Bear with me just 1 second. You want to charity.
Dr. Nabil?
Dr. Nabil, if you are talking, we can't hear you at all. Your mic showing signals that you are talking, but we can't actually hear you at all.
Hello.
Yes?
Welcome back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Is it okay for you to continue your presentation?
Yes, you can hear me?
Yes, we can. And I think you were with the slide with all the colors.
Yeah. So I was talking about the level of the damage, and so other than the people, we have 10,000 SMEs in the tourism sector that have been directly hit. Many schools be repaired by September, and like you said, 300,000 people inhabitants are looking for at this point. We have complete traditional heritage neighborhoods that have been devastated, and collective memory of Beirut residents. Also, as a result of the blast, we have the port came out of space and food reserves and supply chains that are disrupted. So if we go to the different type of help, what is happening now on the ground, by tradition, solidarity is embedded. We are used to assist each other in terms of crisis, everybody, and then this was resilience actually. These social capitals, these self-help, people helping each other, and this was always stand again, but this time the catastrophe is much bigger than that. So of help was a self-help, the one that we witnessed. And so people try to help each other to go to the hospital. You have neighbors and people pulling from all over the country to help people clean the debris, still ongoing. We have on the second to see the second day local authorities and NGOs intervening. Unfortunately, at the national level, and because of limited resources and the political turmoil, this help didn't go far. It's taking time to materialize actually, and we're still waiting for this. But it's getting organized slowly, but it's not as fast flowing in. Unfortunately, all these initiatives, really tremendous initiatives, to see people making sandwiches, people cleaning, people delivering food, people have those initiatives, but unfortunately we don't have an organized governance. We were in the midst of preparing a disaster management plan for Beirut, but it is not finished so far. So this made us very late in the current level. The response was very slow. Now I will talk, because I took time, I'll try to I will discuss the needs at all levels, long term, medium term, and then I'll go down to the short term. I know many other colleagues will cover this part. On the medium and long term, we have an opportunity. It's a huge disaster. The sceneries are apocalyptic. The people are really traumatized. The nation to stand back, stand up, and develop in a better way. And I see opportunities at the national level. I think we have a chance to reduce this over-concentration on Beirut, to disperse and balance the development to the regional levels, and then give the role of Beirut, other regions a chance also, so that we balance this development. Might be a controversy. People would not like this idea, but we have the city level. There's an opportunity to revise and enhance the relation between the port of Beirut and the neighborhood around it. The port is the lungs of the city. The city breathes the port. It's an entity apart, and it's a little at the same time breathing from the port and suffocated by the port. And we need to find the role of the port, and then to make a master plan for the port and its neighborhoods around it. If we go to the short-term level, priority actions, we have a lot of as Remeze, Dawar, these are, and Saint Michael, these are the names. Picture, I cannot show them now from my phone. I don't know how to use it, but you saw the neighborhoods that were completely destroyed before the blast occurred. There was a conflict between landlords and the tenants of the houses. I mean, the people who are renting. These are old-time rents, and conflicts and trying to avoid to be evicted, being evicted to develop this area, and we had a lack of regulations actually. Also, we have a good tools, planning tools, but people were not looking at those tools. And
Dr. Nabil, can you hear me?
Avoid bypass. Hello.
دكتور نبيل البرزنتيشن freezed مش بيتحرك عندنا. We can't see a changing slide. It's freezed on slide number 4.
Okay. So,
The sheer scale of damage. Maybe you can use the full screen. You don't have to repeat, just go through it.
Okay. I'm on slide number 4. A picture on slide number 4, just to give you an example, this building that was completely in 2007, we used
number
it.
4 in order. We missed the rest of the presentation. We freezed on number 4 in order.
No, go to strategic and priority actions on the long medium term. We used this building in 2007 to do an international workshop to discuss about public the war that we have suffered in 2006, and this traditional building used to host people from all over the world to give ideas and try to help. So issues with this you need time to discuss and push ideas at the upper levels, but they can work on and we can. I'm not sure how to recover. So at the very short term, I was talking about the neighborhood level. We need to have this chance to try to safeguard those neighborhoods. There is a lot of places, and we need to find the chance to find those public spaces, small public spaces, not the large one. So we have a chance to insert those public spaces and preserve the built environment in the traditional districts. In order to do that, we need to halt evictions. We need to use new planning tools and to activate existing ones, an equitable housing policy that is not there. And at the same time, we need to support small business. You have all the nightlife happening in these districts and the small Now for the immediate priority actions, as I said, there are many initiatives. You have activated, you have NGOs, you have groups, you have students, we have municipal, but we need to organize this. We really need to organize, because now if you want to give a donation, you have some don't know where to choose, which one to choose. So so I think we need to organize the governance of this help, actually. And what I'm thinking about, actually, these people can meet and then discuss about and tell their stories and discuss about their misery, and also discuss how to need to build landmarks, memorial landmarks, to be chosen from what we have seen from those structures. The Queen, what we sank in the port. So we need a memory landmark to and about the mistakes we have done, maybe. And we need actually to think ahead to redo to redo things that were not ahead, and try to take the opportunity to develop better and build better. Help, what is needed, actually, we have many houses that don't have doors, windows, so we need like people that can come and fix those doors and put those windows back, at least. And then we need to repair the schools by September, the school should start, and when it starts, it rained, and people had no windows, and they are sitting outside. This is what I think we need immediately for me and for having the patience to wait for me to present. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nabil, and we are really very sorry that the network quality wasn't that good to enjoy the whole presentation. Because I saw it, it's really going through the details of proposing strategic, a draft for a strategic actions for the short term and the long term, which should really need to be discussed among all right now. Thank you, and we'll move on to our next speaker. He will be presenting from Beirut as well.
Mr. Nabil, you can stop sharing your screen, please. And on the chat, we were just informed that the BBC has mentioned that the government in Lebanon has resigned just now. So I guess this is an important message that I don't think everyone has seen in the chat. So I thought it was important to share it.
Thank you for sharing. Maybe because they knew that we are talking about them later on. We have a great impact. Okay, our dearest next speaker is Sheiji Nashaf. Okay, Sheiji will speak with us. Sheiji, will you share your presentation while I'm presenting you? Okay. Sheiji will speak about post-crisis community engagement. Sheiji is a Lebanese activist, holds a master's degree in political science and a bachelor degree in public administration and diplomacy, both from Notre Dame University in Lebanon. He got highly involved in working with Lebanese civil society on several issues related to socioeconomic development, political reform, good governance, youth empowerment, citizen participation, and business social entrepreneurship. Currently, he is consultant with different international organizations and organizational development, community development, and advocacy. He's a co-founder of Utopia, one of the NGOs, active NGOs in Lebanese. Thank you for being with us today, Sheiji. And Sheiji actually was working on ground, helping people this morning, and he was rehearsal with us with dust. So now having him again with us in the afternoon, thank you very much, Sheiji. This is really great honor for us. Please unmute yourself. No, unmute yourself.
Yeah, now. Thank you, Lubna. I think I need to do a test about my the sound is good or not, because I'm talking from Beirut too.
Let's start.
Okay, we can hear you well.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Thank you, Lubna. Thank you, Minouche. Thank you, Amaken, and thank you for Dr. Yahya and Dr. Nabil and all the participants. It's my pleasure to be with you tonight. I don't have presentation, but I want to talk about several points regarding the post-crisis community engagement. But I want to start even with the current situation in Beirut, what we are seeing in the ground, because we were on the ground since the first day after the explosion. Even the same night we were on the ground, but each time has its own priority. In the first day it was about blood donation and helping injured people. I will split my talk about in the beginning about the strands in the current situation, the challenges and the risks that we have, and the opportunities. And then I will talk in brief about what we can do in the near future regarding the community, post-crisis community engagement. In the strengths, we have, since the first day, many local organizations, expertise, grassroots initiatives, human resources, and we have a lot of solidarity in the country. And as Dr. Nabil mentioned, that every time in Lebanon, when we have crisis, we have a lot of solidarity. But what is we can highlight about the initiatives? Until now, I'm volunteering in 4 different new initiatives on the ground, other than having Ethiopia working on one of the building reconstruction, which is close to the poor in the Mdawar area. We have a lot of food assistance initiatives for all the volunteers, donations, different kind of donations, medical, clothes, food, blood in the first 2 days. So we have a lot of donations. Engineers initiatives, they are doing mapping for the building about the situation of each building, which is very good from different engineers in Beirut. At the same time, we have an initiative to afford reconstruction engineers and the workers for free for the reconstruction of houses. So 2 days ago, we are doing assessment for a building in the Mdawar area in Beirut, and a group of volunteers of engineers. They have around 2,000 engineers working on the ground, and they are affording not only their expertise, but workers to help the marginalized people. They need only the equipments or the materials for the reconstruction, and all the workers are for free for now. Clean-up campaigns. We have thousands of volunteers on the ground and thousands of initiatives, NGOs, municipalities on the ground supporting in the clean-up campaigns and moving the destruction. Mapping for victims and injuries and what they need from medication, what they need, any need they need. So there are mapping from initiatives and NGOs working on mapping for victims, mapping for different activities initiatives. So there are now different platforms to put online. If you are doing any initiatives, to put on this platform what you are doing and what type of service you are doing. So just to let know others that you are working in this area and this street, so others can go on another street. But this is needs to be more elaborated in the future, because this is need a lot currently. On the challenges level, we need to do more networking, to divide Beirut to clusters, to do service mapping, because to prevent duplications and the chaos in working on the ground, we need strategy and a clear work plan. And some of the challenges when you are going to the house, they need different type of services. For example, you can, one of the houses now we are doing reconstruction, the owners of the house are in the hospital and injured. They need medication, they need food for their kids. They need reconstruction of their houses to come back because they don't have another house. So maybe they need psychosocial support for one of their their children. So there are different type of services needed to help any person in need or any household we are going to. I will share someone put a note about the platform website. I will share it here when I finish. Funding. The problem of funding is big. Even we have a lot of funding in the country currently, but it's not as the crisis we have. But there are a lot of funding from Lebanese abroad, from even from non-Lebanese living abroad, and what they saw, they are sending funding, but it's still, due to the crisis, it's still limited. Protection on 2 levels. We need protection on security level, because there are a lot of stealing and non-security stuff, and we need the protection on do no harm, because now there are a huge number of people that need aid. We need to remember that even before 4 August, Lebanon was facing an economic crisis and a political crisis. So even before 4 August, we had a crisis, and with 4 August, we had another crisis. Based on the World Bank, we have around 60% of the Lebanese population are under poverty, and 25% of them are under extreme poverty. So we have the Lebanese debt, more around $100 billion. We have the inflation, we have the limit income. So even before the 4 August crisis, we had an initial crisis, and now we are in the phase of a political crisis. The government now resigned, so now we will have more political tension on the ground. Maybe we'll have broader blocks. Maybe we will have more protests on the ground. So we don't have a political stability, and this is play a major role. SMEs, there are around 10,000 SMEs affected. Shelter, there are more than 200,000 persons are needs shelters. Now, some of them, they went to their relatives. Some of them, they find friends in the mountain. They went to them. But still, the shelter is needed. And based on the shelter, based on the High Relief Commission, there are more than 8,000 households was even partly or totally destroyed in Lebanon. And there are many heritage buildings. I think Dr. Yahya and Dr. Nabil mentioned this, so I will move on this. And based on the Commission of Lebanese Real Estate, there are around 10,460 buildings in Beirut have a danger of collapse. 25% of Beirut buildings was established since more than 50 years. So with this, bomb happened in 4 August. So there are thousands of buildings have danger of collapse, and even those buildings had the danger before the bomb happened. But now, as per their statistics, that 25% of Beirut buildings are built more than 50 years. For the risk, we have political tension, as I mentioned. We have maybe some security stuff, such roadblocks, some tension and demonstrations on the ground. We have security tension. We have the issue of corruption. We need to have a transparency when we have funding and how the money will go out. So the transparency will help to get more funding and will help to get move forward in getting situation better. We have the issue of COVID-19. We forgot the COVID-19 issue. So we need to, in parallel, doing the recovery, but in the same time, taking consideration the COVID-19 issue. On the opportunities, we have now the international support. Yesterday, there was the meeting in Paris, and there are international support through UN agencies, international organization, and local organization. And we have other international organizations working abroad, such AMAKEN and others, that could support. And there are many Lebanese in abroad and non-Lebanese that they are offering their expertise and their experience in supporting the situation in Lebanon. On the other side, I want to talk about 6 points or 6 steps that could help us in the future to prevent the challenges that we have and to increase the community engagement, the post-crisis community engagement. First of all, we need the networking to divide the role based on expertise, location, resources, divide Beirut into clusters, and everyone could work in a cluster and do a local coordination between different local organizations and international organizations. Based on clusters, we can divide each area to different clusters to have more coordination between all of them. We need to do map for community priorities, mapping for community priorities, mapping for service providing, because yes, I mentioned that there are a website doing this mapping, but not all the people or initiatives on the ground are putting on this website what they are doing, and it's good to do more to do a communication plan for doing more outreach about what there are to do more coordination, what there are activities to do more coordination. Sorry. We need to do preliminary meetings with community leaders and enlist their support to mobilize community participation. We need to hold community assembly meetings to elect local representation to coordinate the program activities, and this could be based after doing or separating, doing the clusters in each area. And we need to allow communities to prioritize and select quick impact projects to solidify support and the local, improve local participation. And for sure, we need a strategy and a work plan to be coordinated maybe through UN agencies, like when we had the refugees crisis in the country. So the UN, they did a committee for coordination with international organizations, with local organizations, and then we have to coordinate with the local initiatives on the ground because they are doing a great job. And this coordination and networking and strategy and work plan could help a lot to not have to prevent duplication, to have the money going to the end or the funding going in the right way, and to do the right activities on the ground. Sorry if I took much time, but I tried as much as possible to be quick, and thanks again.
Jadi, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very insightful, Jadi.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheiji. Our last speaker, last but not least, our dearest Ajib Dada. Yes, Ajib has his different perspective for everything. He's a creative Lebanese young man, and he's member with us in AMAKEN, and we are glad to have him with us. Ajib is going to present the other forest reclaiming leftover spaces through ecological and social regeneration. Ajib is the founder of the Other Data, integrated consultancy and architecture firm, which mission is to activate projects across architecture, living systems, and art. It is based on biomimicry thinking. The Other Data work promotes symbiotic relationship between nature and the built environment by exploring new ways of creating generous and regenerated buildings. In essence, developing the creative solutions that have a positive impact for human and other organisms. And he's going to present for us his perspective, his own perspective of what we should do now using the circumstances, the best circumstances to create a different reality. Welcome with us, Ajib.
Thank you, Dr. Lubna. And thank you, AMAKEN, for making this forum happen so quickly. I will share my screen just a second. Okay, can everyone hear me well?
Yes, very well.
Okay, great. So
location in Beirut, actually, to the rest. Share location.
So basically, I would like to present the work that we've been doing for the past year and a half, and which for me comes, I mean, now is a very timely time to actually kind of scale it up. So the Other Forest, we've been working on nature-based tools for ecological and social regeneration in cities. And we've been focused on Beirut specifically for the past year and a half. And the idea is that what if our cities were as effective and generous as a forest? So providing not only for ourselves, but for other species as well, in balance with the operating conditions of planet Earth. Our cities are not serving us well at the moment. The local challenges which we've had before even August 4th, range from air pollution, water pollution, environmental degradation, urban heat, island effect, coastal landfills, very little green space, very little public space. And so basically all of these challenges don't make the city of Beirut a friendly city. And they don't make it a place where people from different communities can easily interact with each other. If you take, for example, what a lot of people like to say, the Corniche is the perfect public space. Actually, not so much, because yes, a lot of people from different backgrounds go to the Corniche, but they actually don't even interact with each other. They're jogging, they have their music, or different groups are together, but there is no meaningful interaction because there is no meaningful thing for them to do together. Of course, we've seen it in the past year. Our urban areas are flooding, and this has to do with the loss of forest cover. This has to do with poor infrastructure, with corruption. Of course, the temperatures have been rising. In Beirut, the temperature can be 5 degrees Celsius higher than the surrounding cities, just because of the excess of glass and concrete and the lack of green spaces. We've all seen it, especially in September 2019. A big part of Lebanon's forests have burnt. And this not only adds to the air pollution, but is also decreasing the green space and all the benefits that come with it. So air pollution has reached alarming levels, and it's more than double the yearly recommended average that is set by the European Environmental Agency. And of course, the explosion of the blast of August 4th has only added to the air pollution.
The presentation is freezed on the first slide. It is not moving for us.
Okay. Sorry, let me try something. Do you see the second slide? No.
No.
Okay, I will do it. I will do it differently.
Yes, it's moving now.
Yes.
Okay, I will do it differently. Okay.
Okay.
So I was talking about urban flooding, temperatures rising, forests which are burning, and the air pollution. So as per Greenpeace's latest report from June 2020, Lebanon ranks the highest with for premature death because of air pollution. And Lebanon spends about 4.2%, 2% of its total GDP on fighting air pollution. And Lebanon is leading in premature death rates caused by air pollution in the MENA region, ahead of Egypt, ahead of Syria, ahead of the UAE and Saudi, even though we don't have any major industrial facilities. So all of this air pollution is caused mainly by transport, by dirty power generation, and by private generators. So even though we think that we are in a crisis mode right now, and there are immediate needs that need to be met, but we also have to consider the long-term effects of not dealing with the air pollution in Lebanon, because this is actually one of the leading causes of death. So urban forests are a nature-based solution that can help us solve these urban challenges, and that have many co-benefits, which are not only environmental, but also have to do with biodiversity and with human mental and physical health. The benefits of urban forests are, first of all, fighting climate change, filtering the air pollutants, cooling cities, protecting biodiversity, managing urban floods, restoring the water cycle, improving physical and mental health. And they are a cost-effective since they don't require any watering or maintenance after 3 years. And the specific methodology that we use was developed by Dr. Akira Miyawaki in Japan in the 70s. And these are, his studies are based on using completely native species. So these forests can work in any environmental condition, anywhere around the world, from humid environments to very dry deserts. And they are ideal for cities because they can be grown very fast and very small. So the smallest tiny forest that we planted was actually 1 square meter, and also into very big plots of degraded lands. So we don't have to use valuable plots of land to grow these forests in. And this method of afforestation has been recognized internationally over the past year by The Guardian, the World Economic Forum, which called it the secret weapon against climate change, and Project Drawdown, which lists it in the top 15 solutions to fighting climate change. The benefits versus conventional landscaping is that Miyawaki forests are 10 times faster in growth. They are 30 times denser, which means they can sequester 30 times more CO2 and pollution. They are completely organic. They don't use any pesticides. They are 100% native and biodiverse. They are extremely dense, so we can have 400 trees and shrubs in 100 square meters. They require half the investment of conventional landscaping, and they become water and maintenance free in less than 3 years' time. This is the species selection for Beirut. So 17 different native species, from oaks to hawthorn, zarur, to pine trees, laurel, so lots of medicinal and edible species as well. And the reason that I'm talking about this is like not to be detached from the current situation. It's because I think with what's happened right now, we have the opportunity to make our own demands, and we have the opportunity to actually ourselves recreate the spaces that we want. So this, this methodology or this approach that I'm proposing is because it can be made at the citizen scale. So the forests that we've planted so far, the 5 forests we've planted, were done at our scale. We were just a few people with volunteers, and we just took approvals maybe from municipality or from a private plot owner or in a cemetery, and we actually implemented this ourselves. So I think these kinds of initiatives, other than now all the foreign aid is going to be channeled through the UN agencies and all of that, but I think us as citizens and as placemakers and people living in Beirut, we have the opportunity to actually reclaim those spaces that the government has deemed maybe like not very valuable. We can reclaim them, especially now. So thinking of like guerrilla gardening, guerrilla afforestation. During the revolutions in October and November, we planted 6 tiny forests near Martyr Square. So usually in an area that we would not be allowed to touch anything, but because of the revolution, we were able to do this thing. And what I'm suggesting is that we can do the same right now. And not just because these forests are, they're green and they're providing green space, but because it's actually a bonding and it's a community building exercise. And I think if we find these spaces, if you think of these abandoned plots of land that have not been developed for 20 years, 30 years, all of these spaces can be taken over by the people, especially right now in this kind of moment, and be turned into communal spaces where we can plant, whether it's forests, whether it's food forests and planting crops and doing community gardens and having shelters or a temporary community space where people can come and meet and think and heal together and propose how they want their neighborhoods to change, how they want to rebuild their neighborhoods, not waiting for the government or for international entities to come and impose a plan of, okay, this is how this neighborhood is going to be rebuilt. So we're using this excuse of planting forest as a healing exercise, as a community building exercise, and as an exercise that will unleash creativity and really empower the people from the neighborhoods to come up with their own solutions for their own neighborhoods. So these forests can be, turned into whichever design that we want. This forest here in the US is designed as a leaf forest as art. Artists have implemented sculptures in the forest. So these sculptures eventually would be carried up by the branches of the trees. Forest as fence. This is a forest we planted last year in a cemetery in Beirut, in Gbeiri, to provide a quieter area, to provide a buffer zone from the chaotic city so that people can come and grieve in peace. This is a food forest planted in India. And this is another forest in India. You can see the growth, like how fast the growth is if you notice the man on the right side. So this is just in a year and a half. So the impact can really be felt very quickly. This is a forest in the desert in Iran. In 2 years' time, the trees are already 3 meters tall. And this is in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, for the past 3 years, they've been planting more than 100 tiny forests all over cities in the Netherlands as a way to engage students and schools into a nature-based activity. So last year in May 2019, we planted the very first Miyawaki urban forest in Lebanon, which sits right at the bank of the Beirut River. So this is a Beirut River. This is the natural ecosystem of the Beirut River. This is the Beirut River as it is in the city. And this is a result of corruption, criminal negligence, people just thinking that they can do anything with our waterways and our city. This is industrial pollution that happens every couple of years, as there are factories, textile factories that dump their leftover waste in the river directly. This was our government's response to the 2015 trash crisis, where all of the trash was dumped in the riverbed. And this is what we decided to do in May last year. So we took over this urban landfill that was sitting right by the concrete bed of the Beirut River. We took an authorization from the municipality of Sin el-Fil to beautify their area. And we invited Miyawaki forest makers from India to be our teachers in this exercise, as for the pilot project. And we brought together 20 volunteers who learned the methodology with us. So this was the forest on the day that we planted it. So just to give you an idea, these trees and shrubs are about 10 to 20 centimeters tall. This is 4 months later, 6 months later, and a month ago, so a year later. So you can see how this urban scene is changing quite rapidly. Our success indicators are basically by studying the biodiversity of the fauna and flora that are coming back into the city. Also the changes in the soil biology and the soil health, and the way that the forest is growing. So we actually measure the growth of this forest on a monthly basis. And all of these activities include people in it. So this is why, for me, this is like a very interesting approach. It's because it's not being done by experts. It's not being done by government representatives. It's actually being done by, by us. We are trained, but also by people from the community coming together whether it is to prepare the land, whether it is to plant it or to maintain it for the next 2 to 3 years. So it really builds a relationship and a community around this space. So the forest making process starts by a site selection, so determining the plot that we want to plant a forest on, then finding a native forest that we can study to understand what kind of species would survive in the city, excavating the land, cleaning up all the debris, recycling. So we cleaned up, I don't know how many tons of plastics and metals and tires and construction debris from this urban landfill that no one used to go to because it was so dirty. And then we prepare the land by mixing it with compost and organic matter. And finally we plant, and the planting days, you know, it's like takes from 3 days to a week's time. And you have so many people coming, so many kids, so many elderly people. A lot of people who have never planted a tree in their life are actually coming and getting in touch with nature and meeting new people and creating these bonds. And then the 2 to 3 years of maintenance basically so goes from watering to de-weeding, remulching, rope tying, and compost tea making. So all of these activities involve a lot of volunteers, and a lot of the volunteers become regulars who come every 2 weeks to the forest, and they even come in days where there are no planned activities, and they come and they do the maintenance themselves, and they send us reports, and it's their way of giving back to the city. So in the past year, we've planted 5 forests and counting, almost 2,500 trees and shrubs of 19 different native species. So again, a nature-based tool for ecological and social regeneration in cities, basically a place, you know, but this is what we can do at a small scale, at the citizen scale. So forest making as a healing exercise, bonding communities, you know, so let's reclaim these spaces as healing spaces, as spaces of commemoration dedicated to the victims of, you know, this criminal blast that happened, a place for the survivors to come and to celebrate life. Let's reclaim all of these empty, ugly, disgusting places that are lying all around the city and turn them into something that is much more meaningful, where we can regenerate not only the ecological systems, but also regenerate the social connections at a time that is extremely needed right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adib. Thank you so much for sharing this, and also for your call to action. So we've tried to provide you tonight with a big variety of speakers, and I think it leaves us, at least me, with on one hand the feeling of devastation, on the enormity, on where to start. It's just so much. But also the enormous pain that we didn't give voice to tonight, but we can hear in the stories, we can see it in the faces of everyone joining here tonight. We're with 80 people. We were just now coming from, lots of them from Lebanon themselves, but also from other parts of the Middle East, or people living, Egyptian, living in the UK, from everywhere, and the pain that we see. And it also feels like, okay, can we even think about planning? Can we even talk about having hope, you know, reclaiming our public space? While there is so much pain, while there's 2,000 to 3,000 people that have no roof over their head, while there are so many direct needs. And yet the speakers also showed that there are ways in this massive amount of devastation, that there are ways to structure things and to divide amongst what is short term and what is longer term, and also how you can start to plan also in the midst of the demolition that we're now, and also even think and talk about, I mean, I know Adib, you're also in the midst of Beirut, even think about, okay, but we can also start thinking about doing things differently with the community. And you know, there's a hope in the stories as well. We're here together with this enormous group of people. They have backgrounds. I mean, we have backgrounds as architects, as city planners, as placemakers, from all these different countries. The AMAKEN Placemaking Network is bringing that together. And so we have this enormous background, and from everything that we've seen last days, enormous willingness to help out. We already started translating the placemaking manuals, to make sure that there is, you know, materials to work with once people feel that they have space in their head to do that. But going back to our speakers for tonight, what do you think that a network as this, or we as a group of people with our expertise, what would be the things that we should be focusing on or could be focusing on? Can I ask that question to our speakers? And for all the participants, if you have questions to the speakers, or if you want to talk about what you think that the network can do, my dear colleague Mohammed Amusamra will close off with, you know, trying to do some follow-up actions, because this is just, you know, a first evening, first talk, but we believe to be the first of many others. So we want to close off tonight with a list of things that we could focus on, either being follow-up workshops, follow-up sessions, one-on-ones, could be anything. But who of the speakers could I give a word? Adib, unmute yourself.
Sure. So Minouche, first of all, yes, I'd like to, address this to everyone who's, who's logged on to this and followed our presentations. I think all of us, and from our discussions while preparing this workshop, we're not here to give, sort of like top-down approaches to this. Mm-hmm. I think we hear each one in our capacity as having done different initiatives or having different experience in presenting what are the possibilities. But as we discussed, like the purpose of this is to really assess what are the needs from the people that are on the ground. We have a lot of people on the, from the participants who are actually on the ground, who have been on the ground since, since the first, since the blast. So really understanding if you can just come up and talk, and if you can literally just list what are the needs that you are seeing, what are the needs that need to be met right away, keeping in mind what this forum is about. So it's about placemaking. So we're recognizing the importance of these people who have lost their homes, who don't recognize their neighborhoods anymore. Well, how can we bring back the sense of belonging? These landmarks have disappeared. How can we bring back, is it the physical aesthetic landmark, or is it the meaning behind that landmark? So, how can we bring back this, I don't know, the meaning behind Jemaise, or the meaning behind the Mdawar, or, all of these neighborhoods that have disappeared. So please come up and talk. And again, we want to organize more of these workshops that will be, taking actually concrete steps and not just people presenting.
Thank you. Good. Who else could I give the word? Sheiji? Or?
There is a question in the chat area, very interesting question, Minouche.
Okay.
Ask our speakers.
Yes, sure. I think it's the question from
Heba.
Yes, I see it. So Heba is asking, is it necessary after disaster to rebuild the same land use for the area, or shall we improve the new designs and planning? I think I heard you say a little bit about that already, but who would like to respond to that? Yes, Mr. Sarag.
Yes, well, I think this is a very good question, and I think it depends. It gives an opportunity, although it's a disaster to have such a catastrophe, but it's also an opportunity while doing the reconstruction process to alleviate the, let's say, the problems from the previous planning that took place. Perhaps land use, the existing land use might be causing pollution, as Shadi explained, or actually Adib explained from a couple of minutes ago. Or maybe the land use is actually generating traffic jams in particular areas. So perhaps by taking the previous problems into consideration while doing the new planning, I think this is an opportunity to present or to make something better for the future. So this is my point of view on that.
Okay, thank you so much. Who else?
I see some participants raising hands, Milosh, so...
Okay. Balsam, can I give you the word? Balsam Madi? You can unmute yourself, Balsam. I saw you raise your hand.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Adib and Shadi and Dr. Sarag for your presentations. It's very informative to know the different approaches towards reconstruction and also to think forward while we're within the crisis. I think one of the points that Dr. Shadi, Mr. Shadi raised, which is working on a strategy, is very important, and in collaboration with a UN agency, because okay, we all know this is going to be a bottom-up movement, but the main problem of Lebanon initially was that there is no national development plan that's binding, and there is no planning ministry. So if there are different NGOs and different grassroots movements that are all receiving funding from either private individuals abroad or organizations, everyone's receiving funding now. There are like hundreds of individuals and people, and it's happening very chaotically. So the lack of systemization problem is happening all over again. So for me, I think this is the most critical point, that somehow there should be one portal that systemizes who are the agencies, who are the individuals, who are the grassroots movements that are working, who's doing what, who's receiving how much money. And then this is for me, in my opinion, this is the only chance to move forward, or we're going to go back into the trap of the old governance system, which is lack of systemization. And it really, like, for me, as much as my heart now is burning for Beirut, and as much as I'm happy to see initiatives happening, I didn't see one coordination agency. And this is what always happens. And this is what happened also in the revolution when it started in November. Different people were working and there's a lack of coordination. And I don't know if this is a Lebanese problem or an Arab problem, but I just wanted to address it. Thank you.
Awesome. I think it's an excellent point that you're raising, because in the midst of everyone trying to help out, setting up programs and stuff, it is extremely important to have a little bit more of a macro assessment of what is needed and to really make sure that things are done well. Balsam, do you have, who would you think should be taking the initiative for that?
I think the UN agencies are very well equipped because they already worked on urban planning reform document. In the past 4 or 5 years, they've been working on reforming the urban planning systems of Beirut. And they are actually in touch with most of the NGOs that were active. Now, there are new NGOs that have popped up and new grassroots movements, which they can also link to. But the problem with Lebanon is that we need an umbrella. And I feel that UN Habitat has been playing that role to the best of their extent, of course. You cannot replace a government agency with an international organization. But throughout my research, they have been trying to play the role of this umbrella, which we so much lack.
Okay, thank you, Balsam. Is there someone from UN Habitat available, present in this session? Because I know we invited them. Okay, I see Joanna Hamour, you wanted to respond to what Balsam was saying.
I know Joanna. How are you, Joanna?
Joanna, you can unmute yourself. Let's see where you are there. Go ahead.
Okay, hi everyone, and hi Balsam.
Hi, Joanna. Nice to hear from you.
Same, likewise. I would just like to give some updates in terms of, let's say, immediate response regarding heritage buildings specifically. I don't know about larger than that, but I can give some updates for heritage buildings specifically. So the DGA, the Director General of Antiquities, with UNESCO and ICOMOS and the municipalities are currently doing a survey of the buildings and the touched areas. And there's a whole structure being put in place regarding the work for the reconstruction, the reinforcement, etc. work. It is, today there was a meeting about it. We are trying to basically everything would be centralized under the DGA, but with work being coordinated for each structure. There's a mapping being done for all the initiatives happening on the ground, so things can be coordinated. There's also a cell especially for fundraising, a cell especially for legal actions, etc., etc. So that we can say that things are being right now coordinated and organized. So with 4 heritage buildings, and if anybody here has a initiative working on that, would be great to get in touch with myself or to an organization called EIA that is itself mapping actually all these initiatives. So I just wanted to update on this.
Joanna, can you just elaborate who are the agencies involved? You mentioned the Directory of Antiquities, right?
Yes, exactly.
Which is a government agency.
Yes.
And you are in an NGO, Save Beirut Heritage.
Yes, in terms of there's the survey on
just to understand the governance of this little Turkibe.
Sure. On one part, there's the survey. This is like the DGA, the UNESCO, ICOMOS, and the municipality. This is being done under their framework with conservation architects who are doing this specific survey. Then there is a structure being put in place also in coordination with the Ministry of Culture and the DGA with the different organizations, and this is why it's critical to map the initiatives in place, see where everybody fits, etc. I can tell you from the organizations involved, you have so ourselves and our Center for Architecture, all like so engineers and architects are related to the Order of Engineers. There's so the CIA that are doing a lot of BOQ, for example, actions, Rebuild Jemaizip, and etc. I can give you names if you want later of specific architects that are taking over, but voila, it's being put in place.
Joanna, thank you so much. I think you have a lot of information on this. Would it be, could you please share that in the chat for us? The names of the organizations and where people can go if they want to reach out to you with projects that they are working on. Is that possible?
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And for everyone talking, can you please put your video on so we can see your faces? That would be nice. I saw, because we were talking about planning, I also saw a very good point raised by Nidhal. I'm sorry, I'm really bad with names. Nidal from Saudi Arabia. And you were saying that, yes, of course, I mean, planning is a lengthy thing. And in placemaking, we're also, of course, also working on the temporary and the quicker, lighter, cheaper things that can, you know, relieve, but also give hope and get community back from the beginning. I think that's a really good point that you raised. Sheiji, can you say anything on that, on temporary needs, on how to work on temporary things? or perhaps someone else who is in Lebanon active on the ground?
Actually, I can see many of our guests sharing information about active partners on ground in Beirut. This is really excellent. You are kind of collecting data for many partnerships for those who are really willing to help on ground.
Thank you so much. Okay, if you're not responding to that one, then I'm going to some questions that people have raised hand. John Hannah, you raised your hand. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you so much for very interesting presentations. And my question is directed to the Lebanese participants of the workshop. It's basically regarding the priorities. I think I'll start from Yahya's last point about the political and social reconciliation, and whether this should come as a last stage or should come or should emerge as a first stage. Because I know, like, the movement, everything that's been happening since October, it's not only a political movement, but it's also an urban movement. Like, many of the urban communities and groups and activists are participants of it. Beirut Madinati, Hamlet al-Rawsha, al-Amlak al-Bahariya, like all the smaller groups are part of this movement since October. So do you think that our approach, as we've been discussing today, perhaps too technical, the way that has been presented, too technical to the heritage? Do you think that it can perhaps undermine the efforts of all these urban groups that has been working for a transformation or a political reform? Do you think that we cannot, that maybe we should wait first till things get in a more favorable position, and then we start this approach? Or do you think there is an immediate need for intervention in the moment?
Can I ask any one of the Lebanese participants to respond to John Hannah?
Dr. Yahya, please unmute yourself. It's muted.
Shadi wanted to respond. I think he had a problem, so maybe now his mic is working.
I wanted to talk about the question before. Just please, John, could you repeat your question? Because I want to answer the coordination question.
All right. Yeah, my question is about the priorities. Should the political and social reconciliation come as something a bit too collateral, something that just happens at the end? Or should it be the basis for any intervention? Because when we speak of, like, making accessible public spaces, who is enabling it? I mean, there are some public spaces in Beirut, but how are they being treated? Who would enable you to do anything? I mean, or the Lebanese have been dealing with a very complex or complicated system of urban governance. So what should be the order of the things? What should come first?
Okay. I will talk about the coordination. I think after yesterday meeting in Paris, and they put the money with the UN agencies. So I think we are going to a system such the refugees crisis in Lebanon, to have a coordination committee between UN international organizations, and then international organization will coordinate with local organizations. But this does not mean that the different initiatives happened out this system will not receive support. I think it's very initial to have those initiatives part of this system. But I think the mapping of risk and resources, MRR, they did it UNDP in Lebanon for municipalities. We can start of doing something of MRR for even the independent or individual initiatives in Lebanon. So this, I think, it needs more work on the ground, more coordination between with the UN agencies, European Union, and other organizations. And I think as soon as possible, they will start of forming this kind of coordination system in the country. Hopefully, it will work. It will work because, as Balsam mentioned, that such, for example, during the revolution, there was no any coordination and other different initiatives in the country. But on refugee crisis, there was more coordination than the local project or local activities happened in the country. On the priority, the issue of socio-political and the issue related to the public spaces, I think the municipality here can have a huge role or a big role regarding taking the permission of doing a project in the public spaces. So I think there will be more coordination between civil society or any project with the municipality of Beirut if the public spaces here in Beirut. And I think it's the right time to push, to our point of view, due to what's happening in the country and due to the rise of the power of civil society on the ground. So I think we can push to do what we are looking, if it is based on a strategy and a plan for Beirut. So here we arrive to the point of having a strategy for Beirut regarding urban planning and other. And I think the UN agency, they will divide their work between UN Habitat on urban planning with UNDP regarding the coordination with the municipalities and other local organizations, and UNHCR may be related to shelter people and other stuff. Sorry if I took a long time.
Thanks so much for your response. I see one more question from Jessica. Jessica, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, hi everyone. So I'm from Lebanon, and reconstruction is really important. I think most of the effort will go into this with many initiatives. Joanna already told us that there is a centralization effort that's been going on. I think it's important to focus on the healing process and on keeping the memories of the place as well. It's particularly, I mean, it's traumatizing, all the damage that's done, but many of us lost also people there. And we hold on to the place as what's left from people. And these areas are among the most cultural places in Beirut. They hold really big historical value. And I think it's, this is the part that I think will go unnoticed because it's intangible. And this is the part that needs building a community around it. Although the many efforts that are being done and the theoretical spirit of community participation that UN Habitat has, the approach to this, the structure that Joanna mentioned, many of the organizations involved have this, but it really needs a lot of personalization, a lot of effort. So I think that the added value within such a number of big players going into the reconstruction process, I think one of the biggest added values for a network like AMAKEN is really to think of small projects, small community healing things, whether forest planting or other human scale storytelling, really just keeping the soul of what died there, even when we rethink about the planning or the function or the land use. And it's an opportunity as well, beyond what happened lately in Beirut, also to reconnect to older history as well, whether the train station or other things. So this dimension wasn't very present in today's discussion. I think probably Adib's intervention was the most relevant to this, but I think it's important to discuss how we could go about doing this, not only in the most damaged places, but also reconnecting different neighborhoods together through this collective trauma.
Thank you, Jessica. I think that is very well put. And I guess this is the storytelling, the sharing of the soul, creating the soul, bringing pictures, bringing artists to the place, and really giving attention to that kind of, which is so important to communities, is often lacking in what you say in the bigger construction work. So this is indeed something that I think we can help create and keep attention and focus on. Thank you so much for bringing this in. I see another raised hand from Reem Bu Hamdan. You're from Lebanon, I guess, as well. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, hello.
Hi there.
Hello. My name is Reem. I'm from Lebanon, currently living in the Netherlands. And first, I want to thank you for this webinar, this workshop. And I believe that now joining forces is key, because we really need these different perspectives towards how to deal with the situation and how we can collect all this knowledge and experience and put it in an efficient way. However, right now, we need to understand that the rhythm in Lebanon is different, because placemaking, we know that it takes a lot of time until you can start seeing like actually things changing with placemaking. It takes years to really see a difference on the long term. And these changes also change with the changing needs of the people. However, in Lebanon, because it's a catastrophe right now, people already appropriated the streets as public spaces right now. And it's very important to also think, what are the priorities here and what are the target groups that we have? And of course, we have been thinking a lot about the people who were affected directly. However, nobody mentioned kids, because they are the future as well. And it's really important to think about health, mental health of these kids, and how to really think of placemaking not only as a catastrophic, let's say, intervention just to target this specific event, horrible event, but also like how to make it playful so that people can benefit and somehow like feel that, okay, there is something changing, you know, like these tiny interventions that can really make people happier in the spaces. And only when they can like feel happy, they will belong and they will really appropriate and take care of this place. So that was my input. And thank you very much for this workshop.
Yeah, thank you so much. I guess that really taps into what I tried to bring up a bit earlier about how we need temporary things. We need what we always say, quicker, lighter, cheaper, small things that really bring light to people's eyes and that feel, okay, it is not what the end result will be, but it is bringing, you know, chairs in the street, it is bringing laughter, it's bringing small stories, it's bringing...
Yeah, city games, yeah, maybe something that can interact the different age groups as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I see a question by Uma Hamo. It's the last question that we're going to take for tonight. Then I'm going to give the words to Mohammed Abu Samra, who is going to do the final words. But of course, this is not the end. But we did say we're going to work till 10. So let's leave it at that. Umar, can you unmute yourself, please?
Okay, that's good. Hello.
Hi there.
I'm sorry, I'm out of my house now. I'm Amar Hamma, Master in Architectural Design, leader of Amar Consultant Bureau, one of corporation with Dr. Yahya Siraj. We prepared, I'm from Iraq. In Iraq, we have the same challenge with the Lebanon state situations. We suffered from same political situation and same economic collapse, and the infrastructures and utilities of our cities is same. Okay, we prepared in past what we call RNDA, Rapid Need Assessment for the demolition and affected areas in 7 governments in Iraq. So we must have a strategy how we can solve this challenge. First, as I heard, we must divide this challenge to 3 stages: to long, medium, and short term. This depends on the budget of how we can treatment this affected. The budget depends on the field survey. Rapid field survey will show us the indication how we can start. We must, in our experience, we RNDA, we put we put 5 categories according to 3 years. First, how we collect the money. How we can, if we collect this money, did we have, or does we have, or do we have an enterprise can lead this money, can distribute this fund with efficiency? This what we said enterprise arrangement. In acts of how we get money, in the same acts how we can spend this money efficiently. We must have idea about Lebanese institutes, governmental institutes, and NGO institutes. Do they have ability to spend this money? This is the second challenge. The third challenge, as I said, we must make field survey. Field survey, we can depend on satellite view. Satellite view, we will give us the meter squares of damage, and we can assume the budget of affected area. Then we can make a field survey for a target areas. That's what we will have to start with it. The launch of our project will be, we must make participation between this corporation or what this meeting or conference, this leader of this meeting. We must make participation with Lebanese government institution and enterprise. We must present our review. They must give us all data about the damage on affected area. Then we will start. I'm sorry, I didn't prepare anything about this meeting, but we can connect soon. As I said, I'm a member with Dr. Yahya Siraj. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Umar, for sharing this. We've come to the end for tonight. I'm going to give the floor to Mohammed, and he's going to help us close off. and prepare for future steps and future workshops. Mohammed, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. مساء الخير عليكم. Now we get to the close of our very interesting workshop, and thank you all for all these for the presenters and all the participants for their very insightful presentations and remarks. Now allow me to share the screen that I collected some feedback from maybe from your questions and others that I allowed myself with my colleagues in AMAKEN to think about some actions that I might share with you so that we can consider as a kickoff for the action towards responding to this crisis. So I will share the screen with you and start maybe editing with you. Do you see the screen now?
محمد من فضلك قرب من المايك بتاعك شويه.
اوكي حاضر. كده كويس؟
لسه برضه.
لسه برضه؟ Okay, I'll try to raise my voice a bit. Is this clear for you now?
Yes.
Okay.
Better.
Okay. Now, do you see the screen that I'm sharing? We're thinking about some actions, and we try to classify them among between some categories. The first category is community actions. The second category is related to built environment. The third category is related to economy, and the fourth one is related to good governance. So regarding the community, we thought about helping small and medium initiatives, supporting the grassroots initiatives and efforts, and conciliation between community groups and political parties. And this might be the base for all these actions. So if anybody wants to add anything to this group of actions before we move to the second group of actions. Is it okay with you? Okay, then we move to the second group of actions, which is related to the built environment. The first action, proposed action, is reclaiming the public space. Again, because and maybe I refer here to the presentation of Adib, is that how can we better use the public space, maybe as an urban forest, as an example of reclaiming the public space as something maybe better than previous land use. Another intervention is providing platform for consultancy, training, and cooperation, and this might be a platform for all of you to participate in these efforts. Another action is supporting community center model to incubate community activities. So, and this obviously can be a short-term action, but it could be transformed later on to a long-term center or hub for community. To achieve this, one of the tools is to create a questionnaire for the citizens and create creative collective design workshops with the community and with all the stakeholders in Beirut, especially in the damaged areas. So, does anybody want to add something to this built environment column?
Mohammed, perhaps you can also add here the translation work on the tools that is being done at the moment.
Yes, yes. We're currently translating some tools related to public space, to placemaking.
Yeah, human-centered design, placemaking, creative placemaking, like tactical urbanism, working with kids.
Yes, all these tools are being translated to Arabic right now, so that we can enrich the Arabic library with this type of tools, and encourage using this approach in dealing with urban issues.
And if you're,
So,
if any one of you is interested in helping out with doing that, we have a group of 9 people at the moment, so you're very welcome to help out. Just contact me. Thank you.
okay. Anybody want to add something?
Yes, maybe I in the built environment. Well, there was this discussion that went on for a while about the heritage building. So maybe we can add something about it, if it's okay. I mean.
Okay. Heritage building. Let's talk about rehabilitation.
Yes, rehabilitation and repair, for example.
Repair.
Restoration, actually.
Okay. That's great. Any addition from anybody? Okay, then we move to the next column, which is related to economy, supporting the local economy in public spaces. Of course, we know that the economic crisis is raised a few months ago, but now it's much worse. So supporting the local economy it should be a key issue in this regard. So do you want to add anything related to the economy?
Actually, we can add here local markets, shops, and co-working spaces, actually, to incubate people activities till they can return to work, facilitate their life, facilitate their jobs. Co-working spaces. Yes. I think this is one of the immediate intervention or immediate help can be given now.
I see someone, Dr. Maggot. I see a number of people in the chat adding things.
Okay. If they're adding it in the chat, yes, we can save the chat and then we add things later on to this.
Yeah, but Mohammed, it's craftsmanship work. Dr. Maggot is speaking about activating the role of universities.
Which is in the community.
Yeah, craftsmanship is also economy, I guess.
Role of universities.
Yes, and you can also add there what Johanna was saying is creating public meeting spaces.
That will go with community.
Spaces, yes, yes, okay.
Yes.
Dr. Nabil, I'm working on it to unmute you. Just a second. Yes.
By the way, one of our guests, we had to leave a little bit before. He says that he's a professor in UK and he will make the project for his student for the coming semester regarding upgrading and redesign the open public spaces in Beirut. I think this is a great initiative started from this workshop, and I hope it would be followed with many.
Of course. So we move to the last column, which is the good governance. The first action is empowering the bottom-up approach by upscaling the local initiatives. Of course, we have very good initiatives on the grassroots, but we have to upscale them so that they can be spread all over the country, and they should be upscaled to a national program or something. Coordination of efforts on all levels. This is very important, I think, that should happen. We should use the integrated approach for urban regeneration. which combines the built environment with community, with economy, it's all integrated together. This should take short with long-term strategies. So we have to have a long-term strategy for the interventions or for the reconstruction of Beirut. These strategies should have very important issue, which is the social inclusion, which goes back to the action in the community related to conciliation between community groups and political parties. So in our building our reconstruction the city, we should be aware of these social inclusion things. Of course, while doing this, we could have some changes in the institutional setup for better response and crisis management on the short term, and for better management of better urban management on the long term. So
this... can check the chat area. There is 4 more suggested points.
Okay. How can I check this chat area?
If you allow me to add one thing that we missed.
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Nabil.
It's important that we look at sustainability issues. We have, and those many can be recycled: aluminium, wood, glass, and then we have this tradition and reclaiming more land on the sea. Maybe this year, this time, it's time to do things differently and focus on trying to find more sustainable ways of getting rid of those debris.
Okay, recycling of materials, reclaiming more lands. It is from the economic point of view.
It's built environment, yeah, but also we can use it to enhance the economy by recycling.
Yes. Recycling materials, of course, goes in the built environment and the economy as well. So sustainability, let me add, and urban management.
Yes, and I think in another point here, there was also, like what mentioned was by Jessica, commemoration and memorialization in public spaces, like creating public memorials. I think that is important for community and healing. And also Rua was talking about healing.
I mentioned, like, we need those healing places.
Yeah. So I guess there is...
You have to do them.
So there's a lot of richness in the chat going on. So I guess that's work for us, Mohammed, later today, tonight, or tomorrow to get all the insights from the chat. So everyone, can I invite you? I see people sharing good organizations on the ground in Lebanon. I see people sharing projects. I see there is lots of materials, there are ideas. So keep on adding them to the chat, and I think we're slowly, and I hope you you'll trust us that we take everything from the chat and put these into this document and share that with you later on. There is a list in the chat as well. We'll put it again in there, where we ask you to fill out your registration form. So we have everyone's email address, and we can also update you if you like that. You can put that in the registration form, so we can really grow this community and start working on many of the different topics that are raised here. So also reach out if you feel like you could add or contribute or have a way of putting some of these ideas perhaps into projects or in other ways that we can work on it together collectively as a network, supporting all the placemakers and people in Lebanon, in Beirut.
Okay, thank you for all your ideas, and I've compiled all the ideas and thoughts that was written in the chat, and I'll make sure to include them in the presentation and then share the presentation with all of you again. And
may I ask our guest to turn on your camera? We need to take one screenshot for documentation, please. Please turn on your camera.
Yeah, this is wonderful.
We need to see the happy faces that we have today. It was our pleasure actually to host this event. And really يعني بيروت في القلب حقيقي. نتمنى ان احنا نعمل لها حاجه جميله او ان احنا نساهم ولو شويه ان احنا نرفع القلم عن اهلنا في بيروت.
تسلمي.
Smile.
Oh, wonderful to see all these faces.
Okay, I'm going to take a screenshot. Okay, ready everyone?
Okay.
This is a very happy faces, really. It's actually our pleasure if we put a smile even in your faces. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for everyone attended with us from Lebanon. I can see that most of the guests now today actually from all around the world, but mostly I am really honored that we have most of the guests from Lebanon. Your trust is really big. Thank you for trusting us. Yes. Please communicate with us and share any ideas that you have in mind, which really we could put it into action, or maybe we can conduct another follow-up session with a breakouts to discuss these small ideas or these separate ideas.
Okay.
Any more feedback or comments? I'd like to thank very much our very dear guest Dr. Yahya Srad, Dr. Nabil Menam, our brother Sheiji and Ajib. Really, thank you very much. Thank you for whoever came and joined us. Thank you, Ethan, for being with us today. It's really our pleasure. And thank you for AMAKEN team who made this happen. Muhammad Abu Samra has his own homework. I think I don't.
We'll do it together.
Thank you, everyone. Minosh, would you like to share any last words with our guest again?
No, I'm just happy that we brought it together. I hope it's the start. I mean, it feels so like there's so much to do, and I really hope that we somehow manage to make our network worthwhile and to put our energy to use. See you soon, I guess.
Inshallah, inshallah. We'll see you soon. This will be the first, not the last. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
And enjoy.
Take care.
For everyone from Beirut. Hopefully everything will turn, will turn better sooner, inshallah.
Take care. Stay safe.
Ciao.
سلامنا لبيروت وأهلها.